it sucks when we go through hard moments in this life, but also know that it may be preparing you for something bigger that's coming that you don't know. So, be thankful, try and grind through it. Yes, it will be hard.
Welcome back to the Mulligan Brothers. Today, this video, I'm joined by Jason Redman in a very exclusive clip. Jason's one of those guys that has an abundance of stories to tell you, but has a great way of articulating how those lessons could apply to your life. Today's episode, as always, is sponsored by Huel. I'll talk about these a little bit more later on in the video, but this is the Huel Black Edition that I have been using for the past 3 months now. I think that Huel's had Black Edition ready to drinks out, and it's an absolute game changer. So find out more with a link down below. Let's dive into the video. What was the transition? Was there ever I'm guessing there was a low moment afterwards, but was it back up on my feet, I'm going to work straight into this, tough mindset, or was there a transitionary period where, you had to face difficulties? You mentioned alcohol on one of your first deployments. Did that creep in, the idea of turning to alcohol?
Later. I don't want to say in the beginning it did. I'll be honest, in the beginning, I think I was just elated to still be alive. And there was just this relentless push to get better. So I'd say for the first year, although don't get me wrong, in the very beginning, it was very difficult to kind of come to grips with, man, I am severely disfigured. I mean, in the beginning, they were telling me they were going to amputate my arm. The amount of damage I had no function of my hand. So I had this nerve damage that they didn't know if it was going to get better. My elbow was totally destroyed. So the doctor's initial recommendation was to amputate above the elbow. The only reason I still have an arm is fate, serendipity, luck, God, whatever you want to call it. But the head orthopedic surgeon at Bethesda at that time was a former SEAL by the name of Dan Beleg. And Dan said, we're not taking his arm. I'm going to save his arm. And I think his entire team disagreed with him. But man, you guys, yeah, I'm not great, but I can do a lot, I try and do more than the average person out there with what I've got. And I'm just thankful for that. And I wouldn't have an arm if it wasn't for Dan. But there were hard times. I won't lie. I felt like to be facially disfigured is really hard. You go out in public, we all look at each other's faces. And even today, I get a lot of attraction. People look at me, kids stare at me a lot because my face looks different. There's something wrong with it. They can tell there's scars, my eyes a little off. But go back to the beginning, I looked really rough. So that was hard, going out in public and dealing with that. I got frustrated. After a period of time, what started happening is after my 8 weeks inpatient, I started doing outpatient. And they thanks to the SEAL teams and connections we have and a little bit of my own endeavors, I ended up connecting to some of the best surgeons in the world to rebuild my face and nose. But that required a lot of travel. I was, fly, go have a surgery, fly pre-op, come back, fly, surgery, 2 or 3 week recovery, come home, recover, and then repeat the process for multiple years. A lot of setbacks. Battlefield injuries are really dirty. So frequently infection sets in, and I had all kinds of infection problems with my face. So this nose they built me is actually the third nose. The first 2 failed, and they totally had to cut it out and start over. And that was really hard. At a certain period, literally I just had a hole in my face, and I used to go around with a piece of gauze. I often joke I look like Skeletor. That's no wonder Skeletor's so damn angry, right? Finally, we gained traction, but no, man, there were a lot of dark, hard moments. I won't lie. But I also frequently tell people, what's interesting is the leadership failure set me up for success for this. I don't think I would have done as well out of it if I had not been through, like, that's the hardest journey I've ever been through. Most people think like, oh, you were wounded, like that must be the hardest. No, being told you're a failure, you don't belong in our community is the hardest thing I ever went through. So the good news is it set me up for success later. So I try and tell people that. I'm like, hey man, you know, it sucks when we go through hard moments in this life, but also know that it may be preparing you for something bigger that's coming that you don't know. So, you know, be thankful, try and grind through it. Yes, it will be hard. And it was. I mean, 4 years, 40 surgeries, a lot of setbacks. And that was the physical injuries. I mean, you talk about the mental and the alcohol. Yes. Probably 3 years after my injuries, I was almost healed. I'd launched a nonprofit, you know, once again, driven, like, I don't know. I don't think I created this nonprofit because I wanted to prove something. I created it because I wanted to help other guys from the things that I went through. But in that process, really struggling and really started fighting a lot of the invisible demons in my head from war, not sleeping, kind of reliving the firefight. You know, my career being thrown off course. I had kind of come to grips by that point that I was never going to be operational again, that this was the best they could do, which, you know, really limits, I mean, for operational purposes, not being able to use this arm to grab gear and things like that. I mean, it's really hard for me to buckle a helmet. That kind of stopped me from being operational. So I think all that settled in, and yeah, I kind of started pushing everybody away, my wife, my kids, and, you know, drinking a lot. And thankfully she finally, my wife, and we have a relationship book coming out next year. Cause man, we have been through the ringer, and we are strong. And a lot of the lessons, we wrote down a lot of the lessons and things we've done in our marriage. And one of those things was, you know, communicating even through the tough times. And she was like, hey, like, you need to go get help. Like, you know, I can't help you. You're unwilling to let me. She's like, but if we had never, ever, ever mentioned divorce, like it was like a unwritten rule, we would never say it. Like never in a fight was it ever brought up. And that was the only time in our entire marriage to date and or before this when she said, this is how our marriage can end if you are unwilling to seek help. And like that woke me up. And I said, okay. So I went and saw the command chaplain and the command psych, and I said, I need help. So that helped me, you know, got better. You know, I still drink occasionally. Not much anymore. I enjoy a drink hanging out with friends and family. But, you know, it doesn't, you know, I don't drown myself in the bottle or anything like that anymore.
Today's video was sponsored by Huel as always. This is the Huel Black Edition. I've been using this for the past few months now. Huel Black Edition has just been released in the US and it is amazing. It has 35 grams of protein. It's ready to drink. It's got 26 vitamins and minerals and slow release carbs, meaning that you can fuel your performance or your day-to-day life with this. Find out more with the link in the description.